Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nityalla Pravishtam Vishnupad. Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Śrīla Gurudev ki jai. Nityalla Pravishtam Vishnupad. Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nityalla Pravishtam Vishnupad. Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. Nityal Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Śrīla Gaurkishoras Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nityal Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki jai. Nityal Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Nuguriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Padadash Raghunath Sharda Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Swarup Damodar Raya Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Nāmācharya Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल ब्रजमंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जाय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जाय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जाय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जाय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Dandavat pranams everybody. Actually there's only one person here, so Dandavat pranams to you, whoever that is watching on Facebook. So as you can see in the description, I am not teaching right now. I'm actually trying to learn something. And whoever wants to watch with me, you can be my study buddy. So in the last whatever you say, I don't want to say class because I wasn't really giving a class, but yeah, in the last session, we went over the first offense to the holy name, Satam Ninda. And we read, oh, now I'm all alone again. Anyhow, doesn't matter. Because I didn't prepare anything except for copying and pasting a section of Mādhurya-kādambinī onto a Word document. Right now I'm learning, so I'm just kind of learning online because, I don't know, makes it a little more fun. And if anybody gets benefit out of that, that's great. All right, so let's go over the first offense to the holy name. These are 4 verses from Padma Purāṇa, which describes 10 offenses to the holy name. And the first 2 offenses are in 1 verse. So yeah, last week we learned the two first line, like the first half of the verse, which deals with offending sadhus. And now the second 2 lines of the first verse is talking about how Shiva's name, qualities, and so on are not independent of Lord Vishnu. And those who think like this displeases the holy name. So, okay, let's do a recap of the previous verse. We can go over the Sanskrit, which we learned. Actually, only one person learned it, Bhakti Didi. But, yeah. Anyways, I was able to learn it, so it worked well for me, and she was also, and so that was great. Okay. Satang Ninda. Oh, I'll put up the words. Actually, I'll explain it first, and then we can recite it. So, Satam Ninda means blasphemy of saintly persons. So blaspheming the saintly persons produces the most grievous offense. Paramam aparadham vitanute. Vitanute means produces. Produces what? The paramam aparadham. the most grievous offense to the holy name, Namna. Okay, so Satam Ninda Namna Paramaparadham Vitanute. Now it says, oh my God. Sorry about that. Okay, then, so how can Nam Prabhu tolerate? Katam Usahate. How can he tolerate blasphemy? Tad Vigarham. Such blasphemy, that blasphemy of who? Of Yata Kyatim Yatam, of those who propagate the holy name, the glory of Harinam. So, or just, so I'm gonna go through this again. We'll go through the Sanskrit now. Satam Ninda Namna. Sorry. Satam Ninda Namna Paramamaparadham Vitanute Yatha Kyatim Yatam Katamusahate Tarvigarham Satam Ninda Namna Paramamaparadham Vitanute Yatha Kyatim Yatam Katamusahate Tarvigarham. Okay, so that's the first line, and now we're going to go over the next two lines, the second half of the verse. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇu Ya iha guna nama disakalam Diya bhinnam pasye Sakalu harinama hitakara. Okay, so the meaning is so all the names, qualities, and other attributes of Shiva, Shivasya. So one who considers these, who dhiya bhinam pashyet, who sees these as being different, as being independent from Śrī Viṣṇu, that person, he, kalu, certainly displeases Harinam. Harinama ahitakara. He displeases Shri Harinam. So one who considers the names, qualities, and other attributes of Shiva as being independent, one who considers them as being independent from Śrī Viṣṇu, certainly displeases Harinam, makes an offense to the holy name. Okay, so let's say the verse now again, and you can look at the Sanskrit. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇu Ya iha guna nama disakalam Diya bhinnam pashyet Sakalu harinama hitakara. Okay, so at the end, right now I'm going to read from my Gurudev's edition of Mādhurya-kādambinī. We'll read what Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura has to say on this, and also my Gurudev's commentary. And then at the end, we can try and memorize this verse together, the second half of the verse. And I don't actually know the verse myself so well, so I'll be memorizing it with you. All right, so I'll share my screen now. But yeah, this is the second offense to the holy name. So we see how important it is to understand this tattva. Otherwise, we might be committing this second offense to the holy name. So this is from chapter 3 of Mādhurya-kādambinī, text 3. And this text 3 has been divided into a bunch of parts to break it up, so that we can focus on different points. So that's why you see 3a, 3b, 3c, like that. So 3a, 2 types of sentient beings, independent and dependent. Okay, so we're going to be learning Śiva Tattva now, very thoroughly. Sentient beings, Chaitanya, are of 2 types, independent and dependent. Svatantra and asvatantra. Of these, the all-pervading being known as Ishvar, the Supreme Lord, is an independent sentient being. The latter category is known as the Jiva, the living entity, who is able to pervade only the body he resides in. So the Supreme Lord is the independent sentient being, pervades everywhere, he pervades everything. And the other category is, the other sentient being is the Jiva, who only pervades the body that he resides in, and he is dependent. The living entity is subordinate to Ishvar, and is thus a dependent sentient being. Of these 2 types of sentient beings, the former, the supreme sentient being, is also of 2 types. Untouched by the deluding material energy, untouched by Maya, and touched by the deluding energy, touched by Maya, willingly, for the sake of Lila, for pastimes. Okay, got that? So 2 types of sentient beings. One is Ishvar, and the other is the Jiva. And now Ishvar is divided into two categories. One is Ishvar that is deluded, that is untouched by Maya, and the other is Ishvar that is touched by Maya, willingly for Lila. Okay, so now we come to my Gurudev's commentary. Piyush Varshini Vritti. Just curious if anybody's come yet. Nope, it's still me alone. Okay, I don't know who will be watching this in the future. Hopefully somebody. Okay, so Śrīla Viṣṇu Cakravartī Ṭhākura is now discussing the second offense to the holy name, to consider the names, qualities, and so on of Sriman Mahadev to be different from or independent of those of Śrī Viṣṇu. In other words, it is an offense to consider Śiva and Śrī Viṣṇu to be 2 separate independent lords, each perfect with distinct potencies. Because Śiva Tattva is abstruse, the author is explaining it comprehensively. The fundamental nature of sentient beings is of 2 types, independent and dependent. The sentient being known as the all-pervasive Ishvar is independent. Although he appears in a human-like medium-sized form by his inconceivable potency, that form is also all-pervading and limitless. And although in his sweet pastimes the Lord is brought under the control of his devotees, he nevertheless remains fully independent. The infinitesimal sentient living entity is a special energy of the Lord that pervades only the material body he resides in and remains dependent. In other words, he is under the control of the Supreme Controller, Parameshwar. The infinitesimal living entity is atomic by constitution. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11:11, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says to Uddhav, Shukshmanam apyaham jivaha. Of minute objects, I am the jiva. The Shrutis, the Mundaka Upanishad, state the same. Esho nur atmachetasa veditavyo. The individual soul is as minute as an atom. That's from the Shvetashvatar Upanishad. Shvetashvatar Upanishad 5.9 likewise affirms, Balagra shatabhagasya shatadha kalpitasya cha bhago jiva savigyeya sa chanantyaya kalpate. We learned this verse in our Rupa Shiksha program. I made a video for it if you want to try to memorize it. If the tip of a hair is divided into 100ths, and if one part is again divided into 100, that is considered the size of the jiva. Such jivas are said to be eternal. It is for this very reason that Srila Jiva Goswami has written in his Paramatma Sandarbha, Anuched 33, Shukshmata Parakashta Prapto Jivaha. The individual soul is the ultimate limit of minuteness. It is impossible for anything to be more minute. Yet, because the individual soul is a conscious entity, consciousness pervades his material body. As a dependent sentient being, the living entity is subordinate to the Supreme Controller, and his capacity to perform action is subordinate to him. The individual soul is thus regulated by the Supreme Lord. It is written in Vedanta Sutra 2.3.33, Karta Shastrarthavatat. Karta Shastrarthavatat. Okay. By this aphorism, it is understood that the living entity has the capacity to perform action. Here a question arises. If the living entity is the doer, then why has Sri Krishna stated the following in Bhagavad Gita 3.27? Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. All aspects of material activity are performed by the three binding forces of material nature. But a person whose intelligence is bewildered by false ego thinks himself to be the doer. In answer to this, Sri Ramanujacharya, whose appearance day it was yesterday, explains, the purport of this verse from Gita is that when engaged in mundane activities, the living entity by Maya is impelled by the modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. The aforementioned aphorism from Vedanta Sutra speaks of the jiva's inherent nature as being a performer of action. Despite the fact that the jiva is the doer, he is not independent. He is dependent on Parameshwar. For this reason, Shruti says, Esha yeva dukarma karayati tam yam ebhyo unnishate. Esha yeva sadhu karma karayati tam yam adho ninishate. That's from the Koshitaki Upanishad 3.8. Never heard of that Upanishad before. The Supreme Lord engages a person in pious activities if he desires to elevate him to the higher planetary systems. But he engages a person in impious activities if he wants to demote him to lower planets. This raises another question. If it is actually the Lord who engages the living entity in good or bad works, why does the living entity have to take responsibility for his actions? Why does he have to experience the good or bad results of his activities? The answer is that it is not that a jiva has no authority to act and that he is simply impelled to act by the Lord. Parameshwar is the effective cause of action, and the jiva is the dependent performer of action. In other words, the Lord simply gives the energy to perform action. It is impossible for the jiva to perform any activity without the energy of the Lord. By that energy, the jiva is able to perform action according to his own desire. Therefore, it is not Ishvar who is responsible for the action, which bears consequences. The living entity alone is responsible. So karma phala bhuk puman. Everyone enjoys or suffers the results of his action. Everyone enjoys or suffers the result of his actions. Okay, so now we heard about the dependent sentient being, jiva. Now let's hear about the two types of independent sentient beings. That's Śrī Viṣṇu and Śrī Śiva. So now we're going to get the first type of independent sentient being. So let me just see if anybody's watching yet. Yay, there's somebody there. Hare Krishna, whoever that is. Okay, the first type of independent sentient being, such as Sri Narayan, is beyond Maya. Bhavanuvad. The first type of independent conscious controller, who is untouched by Maya, is known by names like Sri Narayan. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.88.5 states, Harir hi nirguna shakshat purusha prakrite para. Shri Hari is beyond material nature and has no connection with the material modes. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and situated in absolute transcendence. Now we come to Gurudev's commentary. Piyush Varshini Vritti. Independent conscious controllers are of two types: those who are untouched by Maya, and those who, for the sake of pastimes, accept the touch of Maya. So Śrī Viṣṇu is untouched by Maya, and Śiva, for the sake of pastimes, accepts the touch of Maya. Sentient beings without any contact with Maya are known by names like Sri Narayan. This refers to the Lord of Vaikuntha, Sri Narayan, the pastime expansion, the Vilas Murti of the non-absolute truth, to Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, and to the other forms of the Lord such as Sri Ram, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Vamana. These forms of Bhagavan are beyond the influence of the illusory potency, beyond the influence of time, and beyond the material modes of nature. In other words, they are composed of Sat, cognizance, Chit, and bliss, Ananda. Because all these forms of Bhagavan are Sat, Chit, Ananda, we see that they are simultaneously localized and all-pervading. Material illusory objects cannot possibly possess two contradictory inherent natures simultaneously. All the forms of the Lord are eternal, and because of their magnitude, they pervade space, time, and all things. It is to be understood that any tangible form being localized is applicable only to the illusory objects of the mundane world. Sri Bhagavan's nature and form are non-different from each other, and because all his forms are composed of eternality, cognizance, and bliss, they are each everlasting, self-manifesting, beyond the influence of Maya, and entirely devoid of inert matter. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 558 states, Karana Samudra Maya Parashite Nare. Beyond the material nature lies the causal ocean, which Maya cannot touch. Beyond the causal ocean lies the spiritual sky, which is also beyond the influence of Maya. Because Maya is absent from that place, illusory mundane objects also do not exist there. There, Bhagavan in his innumerable forms remains ever immersed in the rapture of sweet pastimes with his beloved associates. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.88.5 explains, Harir hi nirguna shakshat purusha prakrite para sa sarva drig upadrashta tam bhajan nirguno bhavit. Certainly, Sri Hari himself is directly the Supreme Person who is beyond the modes of material nature. He is the all-seeing witness. Those who worship him also transcend the modes of nature. Because Sri Hari is transcendental to Maya and without any material qualities, his worshippers also become free from material qualities. Without worshipping him, it's impossible to become free of them. Okay, so that was the first type of independent sentient being, Śrī Viṣṇu, who never touches Maya. Now we come to the second type of independent sentient being. That is Śrī Śiva, who accepts the touch of Maya. Okay, so now we're reading a Bhavanubhava of this text by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. The second type of independent conscious controller is willingly touched by the material energy for the sake of pastimes, for the sake of lila, and is known by names such as Śiva. Scripture explains Śiva Shakti Yutaha Shashvat Trilingo Gunasamvrita. Śrī Śiva has a perpetual relationship with the material energy. He manifests himself in three features and is enveloped by the three modes. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 1088.3. It is inappropriate, however, to suspect that enveloped by the three modes means that Lord Shiva is an ordinary living being, that he is a jiva. It has been stated in Brahma Samhita 545. By adding a special transformative substance such as yogurt culture, milk is transformed into yogurt. The yogurt, however, is never actually a fully separate substance, independent of its cause, milk. I offer my obeisance to that primeval Lord, Śrī Govindadev, who has assumed the form as Śrī Shiva for a distinct purpose. How does that verse start? It's Dadi, oh God, how does it go? Dadi Vikara Vishesha Yogat. No, what is it? Anyways, it's escaping me right now, the first. Many Puranas and Agama scriptures establish Lord Shiva as having the position of Ishvar, the controller. Is it Kshiram Yata Dadivikara Vishesha Yoga? Yeah, that's how it starts. Okay. Piyush Varshini Vritti, my Gurudev's commentary on this. The second type of conscious controller touches the material nature for the sake of Leela, for transcendental pastimes, and is known by names such as Shiva. Here the word Leela means that Śrī Shiva, in accordance with his own independent desire, slightly contacts the illusory energy to accomplish his cosmic duties. Srimad Bhagavatam 1088.3 also explains this. Shiva Shakti Yuta Shashvat Trilingo Gunasamvrita Vaikarikas Taijashascha Tamasashtetuham Tridha. Shiva is eternal with his potency. Being a guna avatar of Sri Hari, he is all-powerful. He is Trilinga, meaning he is the presiding deity of the three types of material ego, goodness, passion, and ignorance. In other words, the three modes of material nature are thoroughly embodied in him. Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura states that although the words guna samvritaha in the above mentioned verse indicate that Śrī Shiva is covered by the modes of nature, it is improper to think that he is an atomic conscious living entity, that he is jiva tattva. The jiva is bewildered by the actions of the three modes of nature, but Śrī Shiva voluntarily embraces those modes. In his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, known as Sri Brihad Vaishnav Toshani, Srila Sanatana Goswami sheds further light on this in the introduction to his explanation of this verse. In essence, he says that Śrī Shiva is a guna avatar of Bhagavan. Therefore, although he is non-different from Bhagavan, he voluntarily embraces the modes of material nature in order to quickly fulfill the desires of those practicing bhakti with material motives. Consequently, devotees of Lord Shiva receive material opulence in accordance with their desires. Sri Hari is supremely merciful because even if his devotees are full of material desire, he never gives them material wealth, opulence, and so forth, because these desired material objects bind a person to Maya. Instead, Sri Hari gradually minimizes their material hankerings by making them relish his charming sweetness, his Mādhurya. In this way, by awarding his devotees the treasure of prem, which is beyond the material modes, he reveals his true greatness and makes their life successful. Parikshit Maharaj once asked Srila Shukadeva Goswami, "O great sage, Lord Shiva has rejected all material enjoyment, but it is seen that almost all of those who worship him are wealthy, and they have all material comforts." So Shiva, who rejected all material enjoyment, who has nothing, his followers, his worshippers, are filled with material comforts. On the other hand, Sri Hari is the husband of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, and he revels in all sorts of enjoyment and opulence. But for the most part, his devotees are materially impoverished. So those who worship the renunciate are enjoyers, and the devotees of the enjoyer are renounced. What is the mystery behind these diametrically opposite outcomes? In response, Srila Shukadeva Goswami elaborated on the nature and worship of Lord Hari and Shiva, on Shiva's being touched by the illusory potency, and on Sri Hari's being beyond the influence of material nature. These topics are described in Srimad Bhagavatam 1088. Although Bhagavan Sri Hari and Lord Shiva are not the same, they are nonetheless one in tattva. They represent two different types of lordship. Sriman Mahadev voluntarily accepts the qualities of material nature, but we should not think that he is subjugated by Maya like the jivas swallowed up by her. Okay, so he touches Maya, but he's not subjugated by Maya like the jivas who are swallowed up by her. While Sriman Mahadev is endowed with the qualities of material nature, he is certainly not in the category of jiva tattva. The jiva is bound and controlled by the modes of nature, of material nature. But Lord Mahadev, being the predominating deity and controller of those modes, is not bound by them. The author substantiates this by quoting Sri Brahma Samhita 545. Kshiram yatha dadhivikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahi tathag pritagasti heto yasham bhutam api tatha samupaiti karyar govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. The purport of this verse is that just as milk is transformed into yogurt by contact with a transforming agent, he who assumes the form of Shambhu, Lord Shiva, for a specific purpose is non-different from the root cause of his manifestation, Sri Govinda. Yet his controllership is subordinate to that of Govinda, the supreme controller. He is not a controller separate from him. For the purpose of accomplishing a special lila, the supreme controller assumes a separate who accepts subordination to him. A special transformation occurs when the following three combine. When the material potencies, when Maya's quality of ignorance combines with the marginal potencies, the Tatastha Shakti's quality of minuteness, which combines with the transcendental potencies, the Chit Shakti's quality of cognizance, Samvit, mixed with the touch of transcendental bliss, of Hladini. This special transformation is known as Lord Shiva, who is the very embodiment of the three types of egotism. Okay, so what is Shiva composed of? Maya's quality of ignorance, the marginal potency, the Tatastha Shakti's quality of minuteness, the Chit Shakti's quality of cognizance mixed with bliss, transcendental bliss. So the Chit Shakti's Samvit mixed with a touch of Hladini. So when we combine all this together, we get Shiva. This special transformation is known as Lord Shiva, who is the very embodiment of the three types of egotism. He is celebrated as a guna avatar of Sri Govinda. Therefore, Sri Shiva is non-different from Sri Hari. In his commentary on this verse from Brahma Samhita, Srila Jiva Goswami quotes a mantra from the Rig Veda. Atha nityo deva eko narayana brahma narayana shivascha narayana ityadi. Narayan is the only eternal Lord. Brahma and Shiva also have the same nature as Sri Narayan. There is no difference between them. In this way, knowing that Lord Shiva is endowed with the illusory potency, one should never consider him to be Jiva Tattva. He is certainly Ishvar Tattva. If, therefore, a need arises for one who is exclusively dedicated to Sri Hari and an Ananya Bhakta of Sri Hari to worship Shiva, he can worship him with the understanding that Sri Hari is situated within Lord Shiva's heart. In this regard, Sri Jiva Goswami, in his Bhakti Sandarbha Anucheda 106, cites a history from the Vishnu Dharmottara. Once a devotee Brahmin named Viśvaksena, who was exclusively devoted to Sri Hari, was traversing the earth. One day, when he was sitting alone in the forest, the son of the village chief approached him and inquired about his identity. When the devotee Brahmin introduced himself, the son of the village chief said, "Today I have a headache. Please act as my representative and do puja to my worshipful deity, Lord Shiva." Upon hearing the devotee Brahmin replied, "Oh, young man, I am exclusively devoted to Śrī Hari. I never worship any demigod, only the deity of Śrī Viṣṇu. Please go away." The son of the village chief repeatedly implored that devotee, but the devotee Brahmin would not agree to perform that worship under any condition. Enraged, the son of the village chief readied himself to decapitate the stunned Brahmin. And the Brahmin thought, "Death at the hand of this youth is not all desirable," he thought. "What shall I do?" After some reflection, he performed the worship. As he approached the Shiva, he thought, "At the time of devastation, Lord Shiva, in order to destroy the creation, increases the mode of ignorance. Bhagavan Sri Nrsimhadev desires to destroy ignorant demons and remove that ignorance. For this reason, he appears among them, like the sun dissipating thick darkness. This son of the village chief is also among the ignorant demons. I shall therefore worship Sri Nrsimhadev at this site of Lord Shiva to destroy the wicked mood of these rascal Shiva worshippers." Having decided this, he recited the mantra Om Nrsimhaya Namaha. Just as he was about to offer flowers to the deity of Lord Shiva, the young son of the village chief, engulfed by wrath, raised his sword to cut off the Brahmin's head. At that moment, Lord Nrsimhadev suddenly burst out of the Shiva deity. He destroyed the young son of the village chief along with his entire family. This legendary pastime place of Lord Nrsimhadev is named Lingaspota, and this is in South, and the worship of Sri Nrsimhadev continues there to this day. This story illustrates how Sri Hari and Lord Shiva are non-different. Oh man, what time? Let's see, how long have I been reading for? We haven't even we're like 1/3 through. Been reading for 38 minutes. Oh, there's 2 people there now. Haribol. Okay, should we continue reading on? Maybe let's get to the halfway point. How about that? And then we'll memorize this verse. Okay, so Lord Brahma, a jiva, is also invested with the potency of the Supreme Lord. So this is a translation of Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura's words. Furthermore, Śrīmad Bhagavatam 1.2.23 states, Sattvam Rajas Tama iti prakriter guna. Goodness, passion, and ignorance are the 3 modes of material nature. The transcendental lord of these 3 modes of nature, Sri Hari, in order to perform the 3 separate functions of universal maintenance, creation and destruction, is known by the names Hari, Lord Vishnu, Virinchi, Lord Brahma, and Hara, Lord Shiva, respectively. Sri Hari, in order to perform the 3 separate functions of universal maintenance, appears as creation is Lord Vishnu. No, maintenance is Lord Vishnu. He performs the function of maintenance. Creation is Lord Brahma, and destruction is Lord Shiva. So Sri Hari is known by these 3 names: Hari, Virinchi, and Hara. A general understanding of this verse suggests that Brahma too has the quality of godhood, Ishvarata. Yet it should be understood that Brahma's godhood is a result of his being invested with the power, the Shaktavesh, of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. He's a Shaktavesh. He's invested with the power of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Brahma Samhita 549 states, just as the swan partially manifests its energy in the jewel known as the Suryakanta, similarly, Sri Govinda manifests some of his potency in a qualified living entity who, as Brahma, creates the material universe. I worship that primeval Lord, Govinda. Okay, now my Gurudev's commentary on this. Haribol Champak Didi and Haribol Ujjwala Mataji. Hare Krishna. Okay, so now my Gurudev's commentary on this. Lord Shiva's godhood is celebrated within scriptures such as the Puranas and Agamas. Lord Shiva is not the original controller, independent of Sri Hari. This is clearly stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.23. Sattvam rajastama iti prakriter guna... Sattvam rajastama iti prakriter gunastar yukta para purasha eka ihasya dhatte stityadaye harivirinchi hareti samgya Shreyangsi tatra khalu sattvatanor nrinam syu. Material nature consists of three qualities: sattva, goodness; rajas, passion; and tamas, ignorance. Accepting these three in order to perform the activities of creation, maintenance, and dissolution, the one non-dual Paramatma adopts the three names of Hari, Vishnu. He adopts the three names of Hari, which is Vishnu, Virinchi, Brahma, and Hara, Rudra, respectively. Even so, Sri Hari, who accepts the material mode of goodness, bestows the supreme benefit upon human society. The one supreme absolute truth manifests himself as Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahadev in order to create, maintain, and destroy the universe, respectively. All three are guna avatars of Parabrahma. Brahma is assigned the mode of passion, and Shiva is assigned the mode of ignorance. Unlike Śrī Viṣṇu, they do not have the quality of being the Supreme Lord. They bestow religiosity, dharma, economic development, artha, and sense gratification, kama. Śrī Viṣṇu, the guna avatar endowed with the mode of goodness, is able to bestow moksha, our liberation from Maya. Here, Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura explains that, in a general sense, this verse establishes that Brahma, like Shiva, also possesses the quality of a controller, but that this is because he has been invested with the potency of Bhagavan. In other words, an aspect of the Lord's potency is conferred upon him. The Brahma Samhita 549 states, Bhasvam yatanksha sakaleshu nijeshu teja suyam kiyat prakatayatya pitadvadatra brahmaya esha jagaranda vidhana karta govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Just as the sun manifests its potency to a minute jewels such as the Suryakanta and invests in them the power to burn, similarly, Sri Govinda also infuses his creative potency within the secondary creator of the universe, Brahma. I worship that original personality, Sri Govinda. The sadhak should understand that the glories of the Lord are comprehended according to the type of worship performed. Bhede Jani Ishvara Mahima, that's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 227. Worship of the guna avatars Brahma and Shiva is mixed with the modes of material nature. It's mixed with the gunas. It is not transcendental. It's not nirgun. It can bestow no more than religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Only the Lord Bhagavan Sri Hari is transcendental and beyond the influence of Maya. Worship of him is also transcendental. Bhakti alone is the transcendental method of worship that results in the sadhak's attainment of the fifth goal of life, Krishna Prem, thus crowning his life with complete success. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Sri Lagu Bhagavatamrita Santvavatara bhava pushkara nabhasya sadra Krishnar anyakova latashvapi prema do bhavati. Shri Hari, whose navel is like a lotus, has limitless incarnations, all of whom are auspicious in all ways. But who except Shri Krishna can give the gift of prema even to vines, trees, and shrubs, let alone to conscious living entities? Only Shri bestows prema. Only Shri Krishna bestows prema. The author further clarifies this topic later in this work. Okay, I think after this section, I'm gonna stop because I'm feeling hungry. Oh, actually, no, then we'll memorize the verse. Okay. So this is Śrīla Viṣṇu Cakravartī Ṭhākura's words. Isn't that a very surprising header? According to one perspective, the mode of ignorance is superior to the mode of passion. What? Ignorance is superior to passion? Let's see what this is about. Śrīmad Bhagavatam 1.2.24 states that smoke is superior to wood, which is a transformation of earth, and that fire is superior to smoke, because the fire into which oblations are offered bestows a good destination, such as heavenly enjoyment. In the same way, the mode of passion is superior to the mode of ignorance, and the mode of goodness is superior to passion, because it gives direct perception of undifferentiated and personal Brahma. This verse characterizes the mode of passion as superior to that of ignorance. Nonetheless, in the mode of passion, which is compared to smoke, it is impossible to perceive Ishvar, the Supreme Lord, who is compared to pure effulgent fire. He, in his impersonal feature, can only be perceived in the mode of goodness, which is similarly compared to blazing fire. Ishvara is also present in the mode of ignorance. Wait, he's not present in the mode of passion, but he's present in the mode of ignorance? Ishvara is also present in the mode of ignorance, which is compared to wood, but imperceptibly so. Just as fire is present in a latent matter within wood, and manifests externally as a result of friction, Ishvar is present within the quality of ignorance in an unmanifest form, making ignorance, from one perspective, superior to passion. Because remember, the Lord isn't present within the smoke. Fire is not present within the smoke, but it is present within the wood. So, the function of the mode of ignorance is to induce sleep, dreamless sleep, likens to the happiness of monistic knowledge. Considering this, the truth of the matter is to be understood. Okay, so we will read my Gurudev's Piyush Varshini Vritti, and then we will end there. Okay. At the beginning of Śrīmad Bhagavatam, the sages headed by Sri Shaunaka Rishi inquired from Sri Sutta Goswami about the various avatars of Bhagavan. Sri Sutta Goswami described godhood of the undivided, undual source of all avatars, Sri Krishna, who is devoid of the following three differences. Okay, so only Krishna is completely devoid of the three following differences. Sajatya, the difference within the same separateness between Sri Krishna and his various manifestations. So Krishna is devoid of Svajatya, and Krishna is devoid of Vijatya. That means difference across categories, meaning separateness between Sri Krishna and his different potencies, such as the material nature and the living entities. And also Krishna is devoid of the difference of Svagata, difference within his own being, meaning separateness between Sri Krishna and any aspect of him, such as his name, form, attributes, and pastimes. Okay, so Krishna is not separate between him. Like, there's no difference between Krishna, Ram, Nrsimha, all his various manifestations. He's non-different from them. There's no difference. And Krishna is non-different from his different potencies, such as the material nature and the living entities. He's not different. The jivas come from Krishna, so in that way Krishna is non-different from them. Material energy comes from Krishna, in that way he's non-different from them. And Krishna is also devoid of, which means Krishna himself is the same as his name and his form, his attributes and pastimes. There's no difference between his names and himself. Nama Nami. And it's not just Nama Nami, but also there's no difference between his form of himself and his attributes and himself, his pastimes and himself. What is that? So that's Svajatiya, Vijatiya, and Svagata. Just as innumerable streams flow from an inexhaustible reservoir of water, the primeval absolute truth manifests unlimited avatars. In this way, Shri Krishna has been declared Swayam Bhagavan, the original form of Bhagavan, who has no source other than himself. Those conversant with tattva, with ontological truths, refer to his bodily luster as Brahma, his partial expansion as Paramatma, the Supersoul, and his pastime expansion as Bhagavan Sri Narayan. In this world, Supreme Absolute Truth, Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna, performs many varieties of pastimes in this universe. As the cause of all causes, he performs the activities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation through his forms of the guna avatars, who preside over the material modes of nature, sattva, raja, and tama. As Śrī Viṣṇu, the presiding deity of the mode of goodness, sattva, he manifests the universe. As Śrī Brahma, the presiding deity of the mode of passion, rajagun, he creates the material universe. As Lord Shiva, the presiding deity of the mode of ignorance, tamagun, he destroys the creation. Although Śrī Viṣṇu is the presiding deity of sattva guna, he always remains aloof from and uncovered by that mode. Vishnu is never covered, but he's aloof from sattva guna. Shiva, however, remains covered by tamagun, and Brahma by rajagun. Because the modes have functional differences, it has been explained that the mode of passion is superior to the mode of ignorance, and that the mode of goodness is superior to the mode of passion. An example of this is given in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.24. It says, smoke is superior to wood because smoke moves, while wood does not. Also, in smoke, one experiences a small amount of heat. Fire is superior to smoke because in fire there is illumination. In the same way, the mode of passion is superior to the mode of ignorance, and the mode of goodness is superior to the mode of passion. The mode of goodness is also superior because it can lead to realization of the impersonal Brahma. This is corroborated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.25.24. Kaivalyam sattvikam jnanam rajo vikalpikam chayat prakritam tamasam jnanam shtam nirgunam smritam. Shri Krishna said, O Uddhav, knowledge aimed at attaining monistic liberation, Kaivalya Gyan, is in the mode of goodness. Knowledge based on the bodily conception is in the mode of passion, and foolish materialistic knowledge is in the mode of ignorance. Knowledge in relation to me, however, is transcendental, is nirgun. No gunas, no mundane modes. And his explanation of this verse given in his Sri Krama Sandarbha, Sri Jiva Goswami writes, Kevalasya nirvisheshasya brahmana shuddha jiva abhedena. Jnanam kaivalyam, sorry. Knowledge of the oneness of the pure living entity of the Shuddha Jiva and the featureless aspect of the Absolute, Nirvishesh Brahma, is called Kaivalya Gyan. This Kaivalya Gyan is awakened by the influence of the mode of goodness. Thus, the word Kevala indicates Nirvishesh Brahma. In other words, the mode of goodness awakens knowledge of the oneness of the pure soul with Nirvishesh Brahma. Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura makes the point that firewood is compared to the quality of ignorance, smoke to the quality of passion, and a blazing fire to the quality of ignorance. The impersonal aspect of the absolute truth, Nirvishesh Brahma, manifests himself in Sattva-gun. The impersonal aspect of the absolute, Nirvishesh Brahma, manifests in Sattva-gun, not in the smoke-like mode of passion. but some heat is felt due to the fire and the smoke. Fire which manifests from friction is present in firewood, which represents the mode of ignorance. Similarly, Satchidananda Tattva is present within Lord Shiva, who is the presiding deity of the mode of ignorance. And there's a footnote by Śrīla Gurudeva Maharaj here, which is very, very nicely clarifies. Let me make it so you can read it. Okay, so Śrīla Viṣvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura raises this point because one could consider that since smoke is superior to wood, Brahma, who represents the quality of passion, may be superior to Shiva, who represents the quality of ignorance. But no, definitely Brahma is not superior to Shiva. So that's why he's making this point. Consciousness exists even in deep, dreamless sleep, which is a function of tamagun. This indicates that the non-dual absolute truth permeates Lord Shiva. That same supreme truth manifests himself as the guna avatars of Sri Brahma to create, of Śrī Viṣṇu to maintain, and of Lord Shiva to annihilate the universe. The systematic analysis of ontological truth reaches this conclusion. So, we went through, how did it start? We went through, one second. Okay, so we went two types of sentient beings. One is Ishvar, and the other is the Jiva. Ishvar is not touched, Ishvar is the supreme independent controller. And the Jiva is the dependent, like there's a subordinate, it's subordinate. It's not independent. And so Ishvar has been divided into two categories. One is Śrī Viṣṇu, who accepts the touch of Maya. The first one is Vishnu, who has no contact with Maya. And the other is Ishvar, is Shiva, who accepts the touch of Maya for pastimes in order to annihilate, like he has to perform the function. So that is that. Now we come to the Jiva. The Jiva is now going to be divided into, let's see how the Jiva is divided. Two types of dependent entities, those covered by ignorance and those not covered by ignorance. But now it's starting to get late, and we're only halfway through this. So I'm going to just move on. We could just read the Bhavanuvads. Let's do that. Okay, I'm not going to read my Gurudev's commentary. Sentient beings controlled by Ishvar, the Supreme Lord, are known as Jivas. They are classified in two ways according to their condition. Those Jivas who are covered by ignorance, and those Jivas who are not covered by ignorance. Sentient beings not covered by ignorance are also of two types. Those invested with the Lord's potency of divine majesty, and those who are not invested with that potency. Okay. Jivas liberated from ignorance, the Jnani merges with Brahma, but the Bhakta relishes the charming sweetness of Bhagavan. The sentient beings who do not possess the potency of divine majesty can be broadly categorized into two groups. Those who have merged into Ishvar through the cultivation of Jnana, and those who have not merged with him and have been established in eternal servitude. The sentient beings in the former category are of a deplorable state. The sentient beings in the latter category can taste the Lord's Mādhurya, so they are not at all pitiable, but full of transcendental bliss. I'm skipping this commentary. The two types of living entities invested with the potency of Bhagavan. Okay. So sentient beings empowered with divine majesty are also of two types. Those who are empowered with knowledge arising from an aspect of the internal potency of the Lord, Chit Shakti, and those who are invested with the creative potency, which arises from an aspect of the illusory energy, Maya Shakti. The former category includes the four sons born from the mind of Brahma, namely the Chatussan, Sanatan, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumar. The latter category includes Brahma and others. Okay. Although Śrī Viṣṇu and Śiva are non-different, only Śrī Viṣṇu is to be worshipped. As they are both in the category of independent controllers, it is established conclusively that Śrī Viṣṇu and Lord Śiva are non-different. Nevertheless, for the practitioner, and so that for that reason, my Gurudev has always made us fast on Shiva Chaturdashi, because Śrī Viṣṇu and Lord Śiva are non-different. Lord Śiva is Ishvara Tattva. Nevertheless, for the practitioner who is free from material desires, the subject of who is to be worshipped and who is not to be worshipped should be discerned after carefully deliberating upon the object of one's nirgunatva and sagunatva. Or that means we should deliberate on the attribute of being beyond material nature or within material nature. It's a long commentary. I do kind of want to read it, but no, I'm going to move on. Sometimes a living entity invested with the potency of Bhagavan becomes Shiva. The difference between Śrī Viṣṇu and Brahma lies in their distinct type of sentience. The sentience of an independent controller of Ishvara Chaitanya and the sentience of a dependent living entity, Jiva Chaitanya. Okay, so Vishnu is an independent controller, he's Ishvara Chaitanya, and Brahma's sentience is of a dependent living entity, of a Jiva Chaitanya. In some places, Puranic statements highlighting the non-difference between Śrī Viṣṇu and Brahma. Puranic statements highlight the non-difference between Śrī Viṣṇu and Brahma. But it is to be understood that this is like the non-difference between the sun and the Suryakanta Mani, a gemstone imbued with the potency of the sun. In certain lifetimes of Brahma, a living entity invested with the potency of the Lord, so a living entity who is Shaktivesh, attains the attributes of Shiva. That is, just as Brahma is classed as a Jiva, as a minute spirit soul, Lord Shiva is also sometimes classed as a Jiva. It has been said in Hari Bhakti Vilas 173, anyone who sees the best of divine beings, Sri Narayan, to be the same as Rudra or Brahma is certainly an atheist. This statement can be reconciled by considering Rudra to have the same characteristic as Brahma. So Shiva is manifest, there's, on top there's Sadashiva. Sadashiva actually is completely beyond material nature. I don't even think Sadashiva touches material nature. That's the Mool, original Shiva. Also Gopeshwar Mahadev. Like that. That's, beyond this mundane realm. And then there's Shambhu. Shambhu, so below that, Sadashiva is Shambhu, who comes in contact, who touches the material nature in order to perform his function of his duties of making this material universe, all that. So that's Shambhu. And then there's the Shiva who has to perform the function of destroying the annihilation, destroying the universes at the time of dissolution. So that Shiva is sometimes a Jiva, but we shouldn't mistake that Shiva as being Shambhu. Yeah, those are three different Shivas. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so let's read my Gurudev's commentary, and then we'll end here, I think. We should understand that Śrī Viṣṇu and Brahma are distinguished by their sentience. In other words, Śrī Viṣṇu is an independent sentient being, while Lord Brahma, being Jiva Tattva, is a dependent sentient being. Some Puranas highlight the non-difference between Śrī Viṣṇu and Brahma, but it should be understood that this non-difference is like that between the sun and the Suryakanta jewel, which is invested with the potency of the sun. The jewel and the sun are separate objects. Therefore, there is a permanent difference between them. But when the power of the sun is reflected in the Suryakanta gemstone, the gemstone is able to burn objects as cloth. Because the Suryakanta gemstone is invested with the burning quality of the sun, it is considered to be non-different from the sun. Similarly, because Lord Vishnu has partially invested Brahma with the material potency to create, some Puranas describe Śrī Viṣṇu and Brahma to be non-different from each other. In truth, however, they are not identical, as Brahma is a dependent sentient being. Moreover, although Lord Śrī Viṣṇu and Lord Śiva are described as non-different, so Brahma is a dependent sentient being, but Lord Śiva is an independent sentient being. Let's read. Moreover, although Śrī Viṣṇu and Lord Śiva are described as non-different, independent sentient beings, during some lifetimes of Brahma, a jiva who is invested with the special potency of the Lord performs activities of Śiva. Therefore, Sri Lagu Bhagavatamrita 2.27 states, Kachij jiva visheshatvam harasyoktam vider iva. Just like Brahma, Śiva is also sometimes a jiva, sometimes jiva tattva. The second Nāmāparādhas enjoins that those who see a difference between the names, forms, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu and those of Lord Śiva are offenders to the holy name. Nonetheless, it has been written elsewhere, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudrani Daivatai Samatve Naiva Manyeta Sapashandi Bhaved Dhruvam. That's Hari Bhakti Vilas 173. Who considers Brahma and Śiva to be on an equal level with Lord Narayan is certainly an atheist. Regarding Śrī Viṣṇu and Śiva as different from each other constitutes an offense to the holy name. But one who regards them as identical becomes an atheist. What? These scriptural statements appear contradictory. One may reconcile them, however, by understanding that these statements refer to the fault of regarding that form of Śiva who is in the category of Ishvara as different from Śrī Viṣṇu, or the fault of regarding that form of Śiva who is in the category of a jiva as non-different from Śrī Viṣṇu. Okay, so there's, remember we went through the three forms of Śiva. There's Sadashiv, Shambhu, and Rudra. So this is regarding Śiva as Rudra, who sometimes in the category of, sometimes a jiva takes that position. So Shambhu and Vishnu are non-different, but Rudra and Vishnu are definitely different. That's the jiva tattva. In the same way, although Brahma generally belongs to the category of a jiva, Scripture mentions that sometimes an expansion of Sri Hari may also assume the post of Brahma. Tam 4:24-29 states, Sarvanishta shatajanma bi puman virinchatam eti tata param himam. A jiva who performs occupational duty within the Varnashram Dharma system for 100 births without fruit of desire becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma. Thus, at the beginning of creation, a qualified jiva manifests from the lotus navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu and occupies the post of Brahma. Bhagavan invests him with the potency of creation. In that age, in that kalpa, in which there is no such qualified jiva, Sri Hari personally takes the post of a guna avatar, becoming Brahma and performing the work of creation. He is then called Hiranyagarbha Brahma, or that Brahma who is in the category of Ishvara. Confusing the position of Lord Śiva and Lord Vishnu, the second offense to the whole name. Bhavanuvad. Without thoroughly reflecting on the spiritual truths that have been described thus far, some persons could wrangle as follows. Śrī Viṣṇu is the Supreme Lord, not Lord Śiva. Or someone might say, Lord Śiva is the Supreme Lord, not Śrī Viṣṇu. We are one-pointed worshippers of Śrī Viṣṇu and will not even glance at Lord Śiva. Or someone might say, we are one-pointed worshippers of Lord Śiva and will not even look toward Śrī Viṣṇu. One whose intent is engrossed in debates in this way only makes offensive name. By the ordinance of Bhagavan, such an offender may obtain the association of an exalted saintly personality who is conversant with all spiritual truths. He then becomes enlightened on this topic and develops faith that the Swarup of Lord Śiva is non-different from that of Lord Viṣṇu. Following this, exclusively through Nam Sankirtan, he becomes free from his above-mentioned offense to the holy name. Okay, so let's finish up this commentary, and then that's the end. My Gurudev's commentary on these words of Viśvanātha. While raising the topic that Lord Shiva's name, form, etc. are independent, while raising the topic that Lord Shiva's name, form, etc. are independent of or different from those of Śrī Viṣṇu, Śrīla Viṣvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura clearly describes the cause and the method by which one can become free from this aparad. The root cause of offense to Bhagavat Tattva is a lack of understanding of Bhagavan's intrinsic form and nature. The reason why we cause offense, the root cause of offense to Bhagavat Tattva is lack of understanding of Bhagavan's intrinsic form and nature, his Swarup. In regard to Tattva Vastu, in regard to the transcendental truth, the teaching is that one searches an aparad when one misunderstands the nature of Tattva Vastu, taking it to be something else. Generally, those who do not thoroughly reflect on Viṣṇu Tattva and Śiva Tattva and the correlation between them, or in other words, those who do not have the good fortune of associating with saints conversant with such transcendental truth and hearing from them about it, will commit this second aparad. Those who worship Śrī Viṣṇu think Śrī Viṣṇu is the one supreme controller, is Ishvara, Śiva is not. We are his exclusive devotees and will not take darshan of Lord Śiva. On the other hand, those who worship Śiva think Śiva is the one supreme controller, Viṣṇu is not. We are the exclusive devotees of Lord Śiva and will not take darshan of Lord Viṣṇu. Those with such a belligerent attitude commit aparad. It was previously mentioned that aparad is an act that displeases one's worshipful deity. When worshippers of Śrī Viṣṇu and those of Lord Śiva speculate about the difference between their worshipful lords, those lords become displeased. Will a person be pleased by a servant who attends to one limb while piercing or giving pain to another? Śrīman Mahadev is indeed a part of Śrī Viṣṇu. To consider him different from Lord Viṣṇu will invariably lead to aparad. Now, Śrīla Viṣvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura explains the method to mitigate this offense. Lack of knowledge of Viṣṇu Tattva and Śiva Tattva is the root cause of this aparad. As long as one is devoid of proper knowledge, it cannot be nullified. If a person committing this offense is fortunate to receive the association of and to hear from a realized saint who is well versed in the actual truth regarding Viṣṇu Tattva and Śiva Tattva, then he will have true realization of spiritual reality. He will then understand that Viṣṇu Tattva and Śiva Tattva are non-different. This is because true knowledge of the nature of Bhagavan is possible only through the association and mercy of sadhus. The Upanishads also enunciate this conclusion. Katha Upanishad concludes with a description of the incomprehensibility of Brahma. In other words, it shows how Brahma is beyond the reach of mind and speech. How then can Brahma possibly be understood? In answer to this question, it explains, Naiva vacha na manasa praptum shakyo na chakshusha astiti abhruvato nyatra katam tar upalabhyate. That's the Katha Upanishad 2.3.12. Indeed, Brahma can never be obtained by the mind, words, or eyes, or any other sense organ. How can Brahma be understood? In answer, it is said, Brahma can be understood by keeping the close association of saints who are faithful. In Bhagavad Gita 4.34, Shri Krishna said to Arjuna, Upadekshyanti te jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshinah. O Arjuna, persons who are conversant with spiritual reality will enlighten you with knowledge of Brahma. By this it is understood that no matter how expert one becomes in studying and understanding the revealed scriptures, there is no possibility of gaining true knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead until one receives the association and mercy of great personalities who are endowed with direct realization and vision of the absolute truth. But it is also not guaranteed that this aparad will be destroyed upon receiving true knowledge of Vishnu Tattva and Shiva Tattva from such personalities. The real atonement for this aparad is remorse. If one performs Nam Sankirtan with repentance, taking shelter exclusively of Nam Prabhu, this offense may be eradicated. Okay, so now we've heard the tattva of this, and now we will memorize the verse. There are also a couple, actually let's do the verse memorization now. And as I mentioned before, I also don't fully know this verse. Let me open it up on the screen, actually. Okay. Let's make this big, okay. Ah, that's annoying. How do I make that disappear? There. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇu, sorry. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇu, ya iha guna namadi sakalam, diya bhinnam pashyet, sakalu harinama hitakara. Okay, so the translation is, one who considers the name, qualities, and other attributes of Shiva as independent, as bhinnam of the name, qualities, and other attributes of Bhagavan Vishnu, displeases the name. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇu, ya iha guna namadi sakalam, dhiya bhinnam pashyet, sakalu harinama hitakara. Okay, so I'm going to go through the word for word. So Shivasya means of Shiva. What of Shiva? That's Shiva's guna, his qualities, Shiva's nama, his name, adi, and so on. All of this, sakalam, all of Shiva's gunas and his names and so on. Is someone, if ya iha, here, ya means he who, dhiya, who considers, bhinam, he considers this to be bhinam, independent, separate from Śrī Viṣṇu, the person that sees in that way, pashyet, sa kalu, he, sa, kalu, certainly, harinama ahitakara. He definitely, ahitakara, he displeases Shri Harinam. He commits harm. He becomes against Shri Harinam. Ahitakara. And my Gurudev gave two translations, two explanations of this in Mādhurya-kādambinī. So this is how my Gurudev explains this. So this verse means to consider the names, qualities, and so on of Sadashiva, the demigods, to be separate from those of Śrī Viṣṇu is an offense to the holy name, because considering Sadashiva an independent controller separate from Bhagavan Śrī Viṣṇu leads to the faulty doctrine of multiple supreme controllers, Bahu Ishvaravad. This will impede one's attainment of unalloyed devotion to Bhagavan. Shri Krishna is the supreme controller, and it is solely through his potency that Shiva and the other demigods attain the position of being controllers. They have no power separate from his. One who chants Harinam with conviction will not commit this offense to the holy name. And this verse also means, here's a second meaning of the verse, a person commits an offense to the holy name if, with his mundane intelligence, he distinguishes distinguishes between the all-auspicious transcendental holy names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Śrī Viṣṇu and Śrī Viṣṇu himself, who is the possessor of that name. Such chanting is certainly harmful. Okay, so let's go over this verse now. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya guna namari sakalam dhiya bhinnam pashyet sakalu harinama hitakara. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. All right. Okay, so the first words is Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Let's say that 4 times. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Okay, now you say it by yourself. Okay? Now, so one who here, in this case, one who considers that Shiva's ya iha guna namadi sakalam, one who consider one who guna namadi sakalam, who considers Shiva's guna namadi, all of these guna nam, his qualities, names, and so on, to be bhinam. So let's see that. Sorry, I'm having a difficult time doing this. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Let's do that last part. Ya iha, one who, guna namadi sakalam, all the names, qualities, and other attributes of Shiva, Shivasya. Okay, so ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Let's say that 4 times. Ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Remember, ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Let's say it again. I'm going to make this disappear. Ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Now you try saying it. Ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Okay, let's do the full line now. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya iha guna namadi sakalam. You want to see it again? Oops, where is it? Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya iha guna namadi sakalam. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya iha guna namadi sakalam. So one who, what? Who sees dhiya bhinam pashyet, who considers it to be independent, who considers Shiva's guna, his qualities, his names, and so on, to be bhinam, to be independent. Sa khalu, he certainly is harinama hitakara. Okay, so dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Dhiya means who considers, who thinks of it as being bhinnam, separate, independent. Pashyet, who sees, like that. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Let's do it two more times without looking. No, one time with looking and one time without looking. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo, he certainly, sakalo harinama hitakara. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Sakalo, he certainly, harinama, of harinam, ahitakara, he displeases harinam. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Let's do it two more times. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Okay, let's take this away. Try to say it now on your own. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Okay, from the beginning of this line. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Okay. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Ya iha gunanama disakalam. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Let's look at it, say it, and then without looking at it, say it. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Ya iha gunanama disakalam. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo harinama hitakara. One more time looking. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Ya iha gunanama disakalam. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Ya iha gunanama disakalam. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Let's take a good look at it. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Ya iha gunanama disakalam. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalo harinama hitakara. Okay, now let's try it without looking. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Ya iha gunanama disakalam. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. Ya iha gunanama disakalam. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur. ya iha guna nama di sakalam. One who considers it to be different, to be separate. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. He certainly displeases Harinam. Sakalu Harinama hitakara. Dhiya bhinnam pashyet. Sakalu Harinama hitakara. Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya iha gunanama di sakalam dhiya bhinnam pashyet sakalu harinama hitakara. All right, so I didn't know this verse before either, and I just memorized it. Although I started getting a little familiar because I had to prepare this, but I didn't actually practice it. I couldn't say it by memory before we started this, and I hope this was helpful. I hope you're also able to memorize it or get close to memorizing it. Hopefully, at least now you can memorize it on your own. Hopefully, if you haven't memorized it in this session, it will be a lot easier to memorize it on your own. And then tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. India time, so the same time that I started today, we're going to go through this verse together on a Zoom session. And so if you would like to join that Zoom session, and you can recite the verse there in the Zoom session, then then you can join my WhatsApp group. If you aren't already part of this WhatsApp group for the 10 offenses, I will send you the link. Just send me a private message on Messenger, or send me a private message on Messenger. Also, actually, I'm going to just copy the link here and paste it into the comments. Then you can just click on it in the comments here. There. Now you'll see it in the comments. Oh, it couldn't post on Facebook. So just post it on YouTube. Anyhow, send me a message and I'll send you the link. And then tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. India time, I'll send the link to go to join this recital and explanation of this verse. All right. And then next week, we will go over the second verse of the 10 offenses to the holy name. The first thing is Gurur Avagya. You want to see, let's see all the 4 verses that we're going to be memorizing. We're doing half a verse a week. I'd like to do it slow. Okay, so I posted it on, the Final Devotion is my website, and every Ekadashi I post a new article. So we finished this. Satam ninda namna Nāmāparādham vitanute yata kyatem yatam katamu sahate tarvikaham Shivasya Śrī Viṣṇur ya iha gunanama risakalam dhiya bhinnam pashyet sakalu harinama hitakara. Now the next verse is what we'll be going over next time. Gururavagya Shruti Shastra Nindanam Tatartavado Harinam Nikalpanam. That's what we'll learn next week. So we're going to be going over 4 offenses to the holy name next week. Gurur Avagya, disobeying Shri Guru. Shruti Shastra Nindanam, that means blaspheming the Shrutis and the Shruti scriptures. Then the Arthavada, which means to consider the holy name to be an exaggeration, I think. Or no, to make one's own arthavad, to make one's own conclusions about the holy names, I guess. I don't know. We'll learn about that. See, I'm very unfamiliar with these 10 offenses. And then Hari Namni Kalpanam, to think that the holy name is imaginary. So we'll go over these 4 offenses. Gurur Avagya Shruti Shastra Nindanam Tatartavado Harinamni Kalpanam. And we'll memorize this Sanskrit. And this one is a lot shorter than this verse that we learned, so that will be a lot easier to memorize. But that will be next week. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for this long reading. Oh my God, it's been an hour, 34 minutes. You're all very patient. And I will, the two of you who are watching on Facebook, thank you so much for sticking around. And hopefully you can join the the Zoom meeting so that you can recite this verse. Let me know if you'd like me to send you the words to this as well. Yeah, I can send you all anything you want. If you want any help with this, let me know. All right. Jai Shri Radhe. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Jai Śrīla Gurudeva Ki Jai, Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Swapashad Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopigan Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Sadashiva Ki Jai, Shri Harihar Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasacha Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams. Haribol. Thank you so much for joining.